BJ Show. I am Brad, and that is John. John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. John, good morning to you. How you doing?
I'm so happy it's Thursday.
So happy it's Thursday. Today is Thursday, January 15th, 2026. For those of you who are listening to the show in the future and want to know when this came out, because we do have a lot of people listen on either the podcast on bjshow.co or on the video podcast, bjshow.us, which takes you over to YouTube. John, I bet you got all sorts of good stuff to talk about this morning, right?
Yeah, the main thing is that we're only 3 months away until April 15th, tax day, when you tell your tax guy or gal, hey, I just need a few more months to document all the domains I bought last year.
That's right.
That message was brought to you by your friend Agnes.
Yeah, she always kids about the fact that on my death, she's going to put all my domain names in my tombstone. The tombstone's going to be 12 feet tall. Yeah, that's, of course.
You'll be able to, it'll be like the Great Wall of China. To answer your question, there is a lot going on in the news today.
Matter of fact, I will foreshadow the top three. Did you, by any chance, watch the hearing yesterday with Josh?
It was so good. It's my number one, Brad. I'm sorry.
Josh Hawley. Okay.
It's actually my number two.
Okay.
It's a little bit of foreshadowing. But you know what? Maybe we could just touch on it briefly, and you could include it in your top three. But let's not spoil both of our top three.
It was just bizarre. I mean,
phenomenal.
It's just like
you say bizarre. I say phenomenal.
It was like we're in an alternate universe. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. Anyway, what John does every single day of his life, he puts together this incredible website called johncombest.com, C-O-M-B-E-S-T, and he puts dozens of stories up there. There's links to him, and you can go and chase down the interesting thing that you want just by looking to his website, finding out the stories you want, clicking on them, and finding your source right there in front of you. You don't have to take any third-party credentials or anything like that. It's right there in front of you. Now, what we do is, with this show, we started off with this guy. Your name, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he starts, what we do is count them down, and we do that with...
In third place...
Kind of a 2-for-1 in story number 3 today. And part of it is a mea culpa. Because yesterday, I could have brought up this story about data centers. A headline from Ethan Colbert from the paper 2 days ago. Data center developer has one site in Berkeley. Now they want a second one in Foristell. Mr. Colbert goes through and talks about a company named Oppidan Investment Company and its subsidiary called Connect. They have some property that I'm sure you're familiar with that's up by the airport. And it's at a place called North Park Industrial Park. Are you familiar with that, Brad?
I know exactly where that's at, believe it or not.
Of course, I do believe it. There's no not in believing it. You know something about the airport. So these folks own some property there. And one of the things they do is develop land. They're a real estate company. They develop land. They not only own areas for data centers, but they also own apartment complexes, senior living facilities, grocery stores. And now, I think it's fair to say, they see the money being made in data centers. And so what they do is they develop data centers, and then they lease them to the Amazons of the world. You say, okay, cool story, John. We already know that they're working on one in Foristell. Mr. Colbert breaks some news yesterday, though. Here's the other shoe that drops. Foristell mayor resigns in St. Charles County. His employer sells to data centers. Now, if this seems like a straightforward story, it's not. Because if you go on to read Mr. Colbert's story, he talks about the fact that Bradley Miller, who is the mayor of Foristell, works and sales for a company called the Gates Corporation. And they do sell to data centers. But the headline, you may or may not think, is slightly misleading, because Mr. Bradley says the fact that he's stepping away from being mayor has nothing to do with a potential data center there. He says that he just happens to realize a short period of time into his term, less than a year in office into his term, that he can no longer juggle the responsibilities of being a mayor and doing a good job at his day job. So here's what he wrote. I have concluded that the demands of the mayoral role, when combined with my full-time professional responsibilities, no longer allow me to give the level of attention and presence I believe this office and my family deserve. Mr. Colbert made a mistake in this piece. He says that he wrote in a letter posted on social media late Thursday afternoon. So I believe Mr. Colbert made a mistake. I believe he meant to say that this was posted on Wednesday afternoon, because Mr. Colbert kind of asks around folks that work in the office and are like, hey, did you guys see this coming? And they had no idea that it was coming. In fact, City Administrator Todd Streiler says it was, quote, very much not anticipated. Now, Mr. Streiler has another quote and says, this has nothing, that being the data center, that had nothing to do with the resignation. So, Brad, I don't know. Doesn't it seem a little bit coincidental that we've started to get a lot of coverage of data centers going into Foristell, and now the mayor, less than a year into his term, says, you know what, I thought about it, and I just can't do the mayor job and my day job well enough.
I thought maybe he might be related to Dan Borgmeyer. I thought that might be the problem, because you know how the situation there evolved into the one in St. Charles. John, here's what I don't understand. Okay, I know the airport fairly well, and I know the ground around the airport probably better than most people. Okay, on the east end of the airport, you have Kinloch, which for the most part is a dysfunctional city. There's a handful of people still in Kinloch, okay? If you put a data center there, you're not going to have all the rich people show up and say, oh, we don't want to have that data center because we understand the blower motors are going to be noisy. The people who are left in Kinloch, you could probably say, hey, we'll buy you a new house out in West County somewhere. Will you give us your property? They go, it's yours. You know what I'm saying? And then
I smell a good scheme. I see what you're saying, Brad.
And then on the other end of the airport, you have the old subdivision that they bought out. What was the name of that subdivision? I'm getting old. I can't remember anymore. Where, if I'm not mistaken, our state...
He didn't live there, but he was familiar with the area.
Right. And if you... God, what was the name of that place? It was, at the time, it was the largest subdivision development in the entire state of Missouri, and now it's deserted. But
we get your point, Brad. Go continue.
The problem is, you know who owns the property?
Who's that?
The city of St. Louis.
Yeah, but they make good decisions, Brad. They've already spent tornado money that the state gave them.
Yeah.
They have a fully functional school district. So your point is the data center should have gone on and picked. Now, Brad, I'm glad they didn't go to Kinloch, because if they buy that land in Kinloch, where am I going to dump my old couches?
Yeah, that's the problem. You get
it's a beautiful dump in Kinloch. I don't know if you've seen it. You can pull over to the right on the side road. You can pull to the left on the side road. It's a beautiful place to dump your couches.
You know what's so sad about this? I see that come up on YouTube from time to time. There's these out-of-town YouTubers that drive around the country that sort of chronicle some of these crazy, weird places. And I've seen 2 or 3 videos on the Kinloch one, and I've seen a very extensive video that had a lot of interesting background. A guy did a lot of research and has news clips from the past talking about Mayor Shamel and stuff like that with the stuff. God, I can't remember the name of that. If anybody remembers the name, I'm getting old. 314-280-8880. The subdivision out there just to the west of 270. They bought all the houses out there. Matter of fact, my old buddy Jack Klopnock was one of the guys, and that spawned the bad
the Bridgeton Air Defense, Brad. So, Brad, do you have an opinion on? Let's get back to the Foristell stuff. Do you have an opinion on this? Does it seem coincidental, or do you think they're two independent things?
I don't know. The whole thing is just so convoluted. I mean, I can't imagine those people in Foristell because, John, the reason those people moved to Foristell is because they want to have their 3 acres, because I think that's still pretty much...
That was still the minimum. Yeah, they want to have their property.
They want to have their property. They don't want anybody coming in their area. They're like, they're the NIMBYs, they're the caves, and nothing against that. You move out west, it's to the point where, the people who lived out in what is now Wildwood had no idea what was going to happen. You know what I mean? That's just, as we call it, I don't call it that, urban sprawl. I don't know. I mean, the data center's got to go somewhere. It's like me talking about the cellular phone network. I mean, people want their cell phones to work, but they don't want a cell tower near their house. Okay, guess what? In order for your phone to work, you need cell towers. And guess what? They might end up close to your house or maybe in your backyard.
It's always a give and take. I want to live next to a radio celebrity, but I hate the fact that he lets his lawn grow out to look like a jungle.
4 inches, dude. 4 inches, dude.
Yeah, boy, you've promised that to women before, haven't you, Brad? Can we get into story number 2?
Up a notch to number 2.
As foreshadowed by St. Louis Media Hall of Famer Brad Hildebrand, in the early moments of this show, Senator Josh Hawley co-starred in a Senate committee hearing yesterday. To be exact, it was the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. That has an acronym, HELP. I love that one. And the hearing was entitled Protecting Women, Exposing the Dangers of Chemical Abortion Drugs. And at one point, Senator Hawley asked a question of a woman who was testifying there. And her name was, let me bring this up, a woman named Dr. Nisha Verma. Nisha is Nisha. Her last name is Verma. And both Josh Hawley and Senator Ashley Moody from Florida, pardon me, ask a seemingly straightforward question. Can men get pregnant? Brad, you saw the clips of this. It appeared to me that it was a woman who was doing everything she could to not answer the question and to answer a question in a way that would not offend people who were part of, I guess you could call it, her core constituency. Now, just yesterday on the show, you talked about the fact that it's strange that some people, including medical professionals, won't even answer the question, who can give birth, and won't even acknowledge that there are differences biologically between men and women. I will point people to the Fox News story that's on my website today. I'll also point them to a column in Mother Jones, the progressive publication Mother Jones. And a columnist there wrote a piece. Her name is Katie Hirschenroder. And she just wanted to point out that, quote, transgender men can and do get pregnant. So I guess Miss Hirschenroder's point is that if you are a woman who cosplays as a man, you're a biological woman and you can get pregnant. So therefore, Josh Hawley is wrong. Anyway, I include it for both information and entertainment's sake. Brad, give me your impressions on what you saw from the Hawley interrogation.
Okay, I'm not a huge Hawley fan, but Hawley, when he does these things in where he does the committees and he's questioning these people, he is masterful at this.
He's like a Kennedy, right?
Yes, he is masterful at this. And the crazy part of this is I don't understand this I don't know, progressive, whatever it is, this idea that you can't say a man has certain parts that a woman doesn't have, and a woman has a vagina, and a man has a penis, and a man has a different bone structure than a woman. A woman has wide hips, men have narrow hips. I mean, why can't you just say that? You know what I'm saying? I don't get it.
I think because I think the talking point from the left has been, if you say that a woman is not a man, you are denying the identity and the very personhood of the person who identifies as a woman or a man. So if you acknowledge the biological reality, you're invalidating what they believe.
To me, this whole thing is just gotten out of control because the transgender community is like, what, 1% or something like that, or even less than that?
I think it's 14%. I think if you listen to their numbers, it's more like half of people have a dress in their closet if they're a man.
I don't understand it. And what's interesting about it is he kept asking her, and at one point he keeps asking yes or no, and her response is that yes or no type of questioning. What did she say? Something about is designed to entrap me or something like that. I mean,
yeah, or she said that there's no point, and she feels like the point of the question was to bring politics into the discussion, and she was there to talk about the science.
Right. And the interesting part of this is that what's come out of this is that the whole idea of this hearing, I think this was overshadowed, was that when these abortion pills came out and they were FDA approved, there was a certain percentage of problems that were going to be, there were a certain percentage of women who were going to have problems with this abortion pill, and the evidence is now that number is much higher than the FDA originally talked about when the drug was put up for FDA approval. And that was what the center of the argument was about. Essentially, is this a safe drug? I mean, am I getting that right or not?
Yeah, that's exactly what. And Hawley pointed to the notion that whatever statistic that he cited was that it was more than 2 times.
Yes.
What the FDA said it should be, or something along those lines.
Right, exactly. Now, as a woman, wouldn't you be concerned about that? I mean, isn't that something that women should be concerned about?
I think you should look in the mirror when you're at the Spelman Center on January 30th, sneaking into Needlepoint's event, and ask yourself that question.
My former friend Nina, who will no longer talk to me.
Has she sent you a thank you note yet? I haven't gotten, Brett, I checked my email last night and Nina has not said thank you.
I got something in the mail from her. It was a package, and I left it on the front porch because it's still ticking. So I don't know if I want
I bet it was. You know what I would like to see? And we'll never hear about this, and we'll never, no staffer will ever talk about this. But I wonder if prior to major hearings, maybe not this one, but certainly other ones, who on Josh Hawley's staff plays the role of witness? Because at some point, now, Josh is obviously an experienced litigator. He has a lot of legal experience. But at some point, you have to think that if he's up against somebody really talented, he would have someone from his staff play the role of abortion doctor or transgender advocate. And we'll never know because I'm sure Hawley's staff is really loyal. But wouldn't you love to sit in to one of those practice sessions and be the poor staffer who has to play a trans doctor while Josh is just ripping into you?
The whole thing is, and you know what the problem with the whole thing is? Ultimately, when you give it the 30,000 foot view, that's one of the terms that nobody's using anymore.
Corporate consulting term, yeah.
It's kabuki. It's kabuki because of the fact that nothing's going to change. That doctor's going to continue with her, mindset that there are no men or are no women, and that there's no line between those two sexes, or we don't agree with sexes. And Hawley's not going to get anywhere. And I think the sad part of it is, like I mentioned before, the hearing was about protecting women from a drug. Now I get it that the drug is politically charged because it's an abortion pill, and I get that whole point. But I don't care if it's a multivitamin. I don't care if it's one a day, men's health vitamin.
Or Flintstone vitamin.
Right, or Flintstone vitamin. If it comes out that there's people, if the FDA approved the drug and it was supposed to have 0.002% of bad occurrences in the population, and it turns out it's 2%, that's a huge story that should be covered by the government. I get that. But yet that was totally lost in the hearing, and everybody's talking about, she just won't say what a man or a woman is, which is sad because the gist of the whole hearing was not about that.
Yeah, I just ordered my tickets for the Great Kabuki Theater down at the Japanese Botanical Gardens. And that person that I bought the tickets from said, when's Brad going to get to story number one?
The number one.
Right now.
We're going to stick with Missouri's senior senator, Josh Hawley. U.S. Senator Josh Hawley will no longer support a war powers resolution curtailing President Donald Trump's administration from taking military action in Venezuela. That's the lead from St. Louis Public Radio. And if I gave you one guess with the hint of 99% rule, who wrote the story, Ben?
The guy who's coming after me, Jason Rosenbaum.
The guy who's coming after you. Your longtime nemesis.
That's right.
That's kayfabe, by the way. That's just kabuki for folks if it's your first time listening to the show. The Senate rejected the war powers resolution on Wednesday evening on a 50-50 vote with Vice President J.D. Vance breaking the tie. Hawley was one of 4 Republicans who voted Thursday to advance the measure. So that would have been last Thursday to advance the measure. And you might recall, I believe it was in the D.C. publication, The Hill, that said that Hawley left the door open for potentially changing his vote when there was a final vote coming to the Senate. In an interview with St. Louis Public Radio on Wednesday, another great thing about having Jason Rosenbaum at St. Louis Public Radio is that who else is Hawley going to talk to in St. Louis media? Like, who's he going to trust besides a Rosenbaum? But I digress. Hawley said he received assurances from Secretary of State Marco Rubio that there won't be any U.S. ground troops in Venezuela. He also said he spoke with officials at the Department of Justice and President Donald Trump about the issue. So Jason has a few quotes from Josh here, but I want to get to the punchline, pardon me again, in that Jason asked about the Trump post on Truth Social. And here's what Hawley says. I don't take any offense to the president and his comments. I've got a great relationship with the president, and I talk to him on a regular basis. This is how it works. The vote that we took was a vote to advance this to debate. And when the administration came to me and said, listen, we want to work with you on this, that's what I'm here to do. My main concern is ground troops in Venezuela, as I said at the time when I voted to advance the resolution. And now they've made commitments regarding that, and I think they've been very forthcoming. So we thought a week ago that it was possible that Josh would, some say, flip his vote. Critics would say flip-flop his vote. But I think Hawley's logic makes a lot of sense here.
Interesting. You said that he talks to Jason Rosenbaum. I can tell you who Josh Hawley will not talk to anymore for some years now. You know who that is?
Let me guess. Is it somebody who gave their business card to his driver?
No.
And, no, wait. You're talking about Mark Reardon. Before we get to the Reardon, are you talking about Reardon?
Yeah.
Because Reardon asked him questions. Yes, that's a fantastic story, Brad.
Yes.
I think that I would point to the idea. What I like about the Hawley thing here, I had a fantastic former coworker. Her name is Jacqueline Langlois, who's now doing consulting. I worked with her for years at Monsanto, who has an example when she does her consulting and coaching work. She talks about being the thermostat versus the thermometer. If you're a thermostat, you have your own temperature, you have your own tone, you have your own agenda, and you're not driven by the whims of chaos or angst or anger or other emotional heat around you. If you're a thermometer, well, you're just standing there. And when other people are hot or cold or angry or sad or depressed, it influences your own behavior. Josh Hawley is a thermostat. Josh has his own agenda. You may or may not like it or agree with it. And when Trump turns up the heat, so to speak, with a tweet or with an angry sentence about never vote for these people again, Josh doesn't change who he is. He is a thermostat, not a thermometer.
John, interesting you mention that because I don't know if you've seen this. There's an interesting site, and I have to admit that I've gone to this site at times. There's an interesting site that has compromising pictures of members of the House and Senate when they were doing various things in their life. And there's one where Josh Hawley is exposing his butt, and across his butt, it's tattooed Honeywell. Right on his butt, right there. Oh,
I get it. You're talking. That's a rectal thermometer reference.
No, it's a thermostat because Honeywell makes thermostats. Get it?
I thought you were going the other direction. Pardon the expression, and I thought you were making a Josh Hawley dropping trowel reference. Wow, Brad.
No, or more appropriately, to make him a St. Louis guy, it says White Rogers because that's the thermostat company that's owned by our own St. Louis Emerson Electric Company. Although I don't even know if they're in that business anymore. You know, Emerson sold off almost all their different businesses. It's crazy.
They did. I bet you hate that. I bet they should be in. I bet you think they should be in the typewriter business. Did you know that Emerson ran typewriter companies out of business? We used to be able to go get some ribbon down at the corner of West Florissant.
Did I ever tell you about my flying over the Emerson headquarters when I was still flying helicopters? Did I tell you about this?
Yeah, and didn't they not like it because it was like a security thing?
No, it was just interesting.
Or did they shoot at you?
No, they didn't shoot at us. Other people
Former
shot at us.
CEO David Farr, who, by the way, well, I'm not going to talk about his daughter. Anyway, no, what happened, Brad?
We'll talk about it in C Block, okay?
Okay, I'd love it. I'm making a note right now.
Okay, hold me to it. Boy, we went long on this one.
You're welcome.
The B Block is up next.